back everyone. Another very important video on request. Workbook solutions, your Morning Star workbook solutions, long answer questions. Word limit is 200 to 250 words, and today's topic of discussion is The Cookie Lady, written by K.Dick. In today's session, I'm going to discuss 3 most important long answer questions from this short story. Dear students, do check the pinned comment section for all important video links related to your syllabus, and also subscribe to our channel, like, share and comment, and do not forget to tap the bell icon. I keep on repeating this again and again. Let's start today's discussion now. Question number 1, a very significant question. Prepare this answer really well. I have discussed this in detail in the line-by-line explanation video as well, so you may check that. How can you conclude that The Cookie Lady is a horror story, the horror genre? K.Dick's The Cookie Lady is a horror story. So right at the very beginning, I have stated my viewpoint, and in the next few paragraphs, I will be justifying my standpoint with the help of suitable textual references. The introductory statement, the introduction is very important. Establish a direct relationship between the question and the answer right at the very beginning. And here I have done that, exactly that. K.Dick's The Cookie Lady is a horror story. So my standpoint is crystal clear. Then I have changed the paragraph. To instill fear in the readers, the writer uses suspense, thrilling plot twists, and introduces the aspect of the unknown. There are certain key elements of a horror story, of a good horror story, and in The Cookie Lady also we find these key elements. So here also we have certain key elements of the horror genre. For example, fear. And in order to instill fear in the readers, the writer uses suspense. And there are thrilling plot twists in this story. And here, K.Dick introduces the aspect of the unknown. Instead of showing the monster, the supernatural right away, its presence is hinted at. The monster, the presence of the monster is felt. Its presence is felt. It keeps on lurking at the backdrop without coming to the forefront. The monster is not shown right away. It lies hidden and gradually it is unfolded. So we have the aspect of the unknown. Here, that means in The Cookie Lady, Mrs. Drew's character arouses curiosity. Textual reference. Apparently, on the surface level, she is a lonely, kind, old woman who bakes Bubber cookies. So apparently, she is a harmless, benign character. There is nothing to worry about her. But people around her find her suspicious and strange. Bubber's parents find her suspicious. And Ernie Mill is also curious about Bubber's lady friend, that is the Cookie Lady. Mrs. Drew's character thus arouses curiosity. Apparently, she is a lonely, kind old woman who bakes Bubber cookies. She tells Bubber they are just now ready, urges him to stay and talk to her for a while, read to her, revealing her longingness for companionship. She wants company. She wants to make friends, but she is unable to mix with people. People do not visit her also. So she is lonely and longs for companionship. And in Bubber, she has a friend. So till now, everything is very picture perfect and fine. There is this old lady who is lonely, and there is this young boy, and there is a bond, an emotional bond between these two. A very likable, easy plot. But when she laughs with excitement, gazes at her full rounded body, she is sinister, evil. In this way, I have showed a contrast between Mrs. Drew on the surface level and Mrs. Drew as her reality is. She is sinister, evil in reality, but apparently she is a lonely kind old woman. She asks Bubber for the last time, "You don't mind if I touch your arm, do you?" as a premonition of Bubber's doom. Premonition of Bubber's downfall, his cursed fate. And what is premonition? A foreboding. Indeed, Mrs. Drew's transformation jolts, is a shock to the readers. The security that they are lulled into at the beginning is chipped away and replaced by a growing unease. The author builds up the atmosphere of the macabre, and this eerie, macabre atmosphere is a key element of the horror genre. So her transformation is a plot twist. We have the aspect of the unknown. The readers are filled with fear. They are curious to know what will happen. All these things are elements of the horror genre. Bubber is all worn out after his regular visits to his lady friend. What's going on? Ralph Searle is suspicious. So there is suspense. The author does not expose the villainy of Mrs. Drew right away, but the readers wait anxiously. When we are reading this story, we have a sixth sense working. We feel, we sense that something is not right here. So this is another key element of the horror genre, the element of intrigue. Mrs. Drew's character is complex. It makes us curious, and it also creates a certain level of intrigue. The ending is bleak, another element of the horror genre. The horror story, a good horror story, must have a good ending full of hope. But here, the horror story is ending on a note of bleakness. The plump Bubber is reduced to something grey and dry, blowing up against the porch, carried by the wind, while Mrs. Drew is blooming again. The contrast. The old Mrs. Drew is blooming again, and the plump Bubber is reduced to something grey and dry. Just the wind perhaps. The father also does not recognize him. Just imagine the eerie atmosphere created by the author. Sucking out Bubber's life force like a vampire. Sucking out, drawing out, stealing Bubber's life force. The cookie lady is ghoulish. What is the meaning of ghoulish? Scary, hideous. Instilling fear, shock, disgust. A good horror story always generates these feelings in the readers. Fear, shock, disgust. We are disgusted at Mrs. Drew's selfishness, her evil, sinister nature. And we are scared for Bubber. And we feel the shock. How can this happen? Mrs. Drew blooming again and Bubber just devolving into thin air. The open ending adds to psychological horror. So it is playing with our minds. The setting also. The setting of the house, like a grey little box, its interior, the awful wind are eerie. So eeriness. This is chilling. The atmosphere is chilling, terrifying. Use words and expressions which are associated with the horror genre in your answer. The image of Bubber with his head down, the wind hammering at him, the symbol of cookies as bait are terrifying. And so this story is a horror story. In this way, I can conclude that the cookie lady is a horror story because of the addition of all the key elements of the horror genre in the narrative of the story. We have, as a result of this, the depth of characterization of Mrs. Drew and also narrative complexity. And really, this story fills the reader with fear. I hope I have made myself clear. Well, just have a look quickly. I'll just scroll upwards and downwards. Just have a look. This is the answer, 200 to 250 words. Well, I have just exceeded the word limit. This is a reference answer. I have packed in as many points as possible for your good. So, please do a little bit of editing and frame your own answers. I am sure you will be able to do that within the word limit, 250 words. Next, very quickly, another important question, character. Describe the character of Mrs. Drew as portrayed in The Cookie Lady, 200 to 250 words. Very important. Mrs. Drew is a complex character in Philip K.Dick's The Cookie Lady. The same concept, but the framing is different. Here, I have focused on the character of Mrs. Drew. This is not just an ordinary summary. Observe how I have focused entirely on her character, the depth of her character, the complexity of her character. Apparently, she is a little dried up old lady living in a shabby unpainted house, lonely and isolated. She develops friendship with young Bubber, bakes delicious cookies for him, also serves him milk as an accompaniment to satiate Bubber's appetite. Kind, lovable, benign, harmless, she yearns for companionship. All aspects of her character, characteristic features of Mrs. Drew, but this is only on the surface level. Apparently, she urges Bubber to stay and talk to her for a while, read to her. This is a character building. Apparently though. So, surface level, on the superficial level, finished. I've finished the discussion. Now let's see the next layer of her character. Just have a look, students. These are the points I have also highlighted, the key words and expressions. Frame your own answer. This aspect, however, is a facade, a pretense. Her villainy is exposed gradually. She begins to change. Her grey wrinkles, fine lines dimming away. She feels the changes. It is good. But her youth is gone as Bubber leaves her side. Her words are to be young again reveal her longing for youthfulness. So longingness for companionship, now longing for youthfulness. The words, please come back, show her vested interests. Vested, selfish. Bubber's existence makes her so young again. Thus her bond with him is not entirely selfless, pure. Here comes the critical analysis. Here comes the layers, one after the other. Again, just have a look. I'm going a bit quickly so that we can finish this session. I hope you have gone through this portion. Now, cunning, manipulative and evil. Again, characteristic features of Mrs. Drew. She is foxy. What is the meaning of foxy? Someone clever or crafty. Foxy person, a woman or a man. And then she is devious. She is sly. She is tricky. She is selfish. Adjectives for you to use in your answers. Cunning, manipulative and evil, she uses the cookies to lure, to tempt Bubber, breaks his trust by funneling out his life force, stealing it, making him always washed out. This continues for over a month now. Just imagine. Bubber's last visit makes her desperate for permanent youth. She sits close by the boy, closer than ever, sensing him close by. She feels the youngness of him. Such eerie atmosphere flowing between her fingers through her arm. Such a sinister, evil woman. Again, characteristic features, desperate, cunning, manipulative, evil, remorseless, unapologetic, hideous. Just have a look very quickly. I'm moving on to the next section. Remorseless, unapologetic, hideous. She takes pride in her transformation. She is so selfish. Her wonderful body, swelling breasts, lithe movements, excitement make her sinister, macabre, predatory, befitting the horror genre. Philip K.Dick slowly develops the depth of a character through narrative complexity, introducing the aspect of the unknown. So, a perfect conclusion. I've incorporated critical comments, and this, dear students, 254 words. It's fine, just edit 4 words. This answer is a compact answer, a very quality answer. So, try to write answers in this way. You may learn from here as well. Quote from the text. The last one of this session. Bubber became a victim of his temptations. Explain this with reference to the cookie lady. 200 to 250 words. The ending of the cookie lady shows Bubber's deterioration. Apostrophe S. As Bubber's, so in the very beginning, here I have described his end, his condition, his miserable condition. As Bubber's vitality is sapped away by the sinister and hideous Mrs. Drew, he grows dull, weak, weary. He leaves the cookie lady's home, walks slowly towards home. By the time he reaches home, he has devolved into a bundle of debris, something grey and dry, blowing up against the porch, carried by the wind. Quotation. This is the penalty he has to pay for his temptation. So this is my standpoint. Yes, he is a victim of his temptations. What is his temptation? He is a glutton. He loves to eat, craves for the delicious, freshly baked cookies served by Mrs. Drew. He regularly visits her house, which is a world of wish fulfillment for him. Very important. The cookies with nuts and raisins in them, warm, fresh, right out of the oven, are the objects of desire and temptation for him. They play as a catalyst for the interaction between the plump young Bubber and the dried up old lady. So a strange friendship between an old woman and a young plump boy. Why? Because of the cookies. The wonderful warm smell makes his mouth, M-O-U-T-H, water. He eats them greedily as usual, intent on the cookies. He's always focusing on the cookies. He keeps going back to Mrs. Drew's house, trusting her blindly, overlooking her transformation, though temporary on most occasions. Perhaps too naive. He's too naive, too innocent. But this is no excuse. His mother sums his gourmandizing nature. He eats good food. He loves to eat good food. He has this greed, hunger for good food, gourmandizing nature. He would do anything for a plate of cookies, anything you tell, and anything he will do it for you. A woman drinking a big chocolate soda makes him quicken his face to reach Mrs. Drew's house. He is pulled towards Mrs. Drew, and this is his folly, his fatal flaw. Mrs. Drew lures him easily. It's easy for her. His last visit proves fatal. With his gaze fastened on the cookies, he's looking at the cookies only. He does not even notice Mrs. Drew blooming again. How can this old lady bloom again, be young again? There must be something wrong. He doesn't notice all these things. Why? Because he just wants the cookies. He is a victim of his temptation. By the door, he fills his mouth and his pockets. He is feeling weak, tired, everything. But he fills his pockets with cookies for the last time. Unaware of his impending doom. Unable to resist his temptation. His insatiable craving. He cannot control it. His insatiable craving for cookies. Hence, the devilish woman steals his life force, Or you may write, hence he falls prey to his temptations. 256 words. Again, a little bit of editing and it's good to be used as a perfect answer. So this is perhaps video number 1, Cookie Lady. I will try to solve some short answer questions also for you. Let's see. Let's hope for the best. So take care. Bye.